Hello, I'm Bruce Zimmerman, and this is the Open Line Garden Show podcast for this week. Now, color in your autumn garden. It's not always the easiest thing to achieve, and many people seem to forget, particularly as the colder, wetter weather comes along, that we really need to be able to look out of our windows or sit out in our garden on sunny, warm days and enjoy those last days of, well, summer, or we'll call it early fall. So you want to add things that will give you late season color. Now, I stop and I think about, what am I going to put in? Well, think of the buddleias, all the little dwarf buddleias, such as Lo and Behold, because it'll bloom and give you that purple blooms as a second set of blooms, or continue to bloom all the way through the season, depending on the varieties. So there's one that you should be looking at. Then there's the fall bulbs that bloom in the fall, such as colchicum, which is often called autumn crocus, which gives you flowers but no leaves. In other words, they pop straight up out of the ground, 6-inch sort of lilac pink colored flowers, no leaves. Looks a little different. There's then also the hardy cyclamen. These are going to give you cyclamen bulbs in the fall. They usually bloom in October, though sometimes they will also bloom in September. And right now in my garden, I've had them in some patches in September, and now I've got some in October. So I'm getting color at different times. Now, snakeroot, which is not always the most popular name for plants because of the name snakeroot, but don't look at that one, particularly the dark ones, will give you white panicles of flowers at this time of year. And I've got one that's just doing great guns. So you've got that. And then you'll get some other things that you can go and plant in the garden to give you fall color. Yes, of course, you've got variegated plants that will give you color, but you'll get the purple sedums, the green sedums, which will be in flower right now and go right into there. For those of you who don't mind planting kale and flowering cabbage, they can be added to your garden in the fall, where some of the annuals may have sort of basically petered out. Take them out, improve the soil, and put in your flowering cabbage and kale, and they'll go to at least Christmas time with color in your garden. Makes great areas around your entrance and in larger containers as well. So you can actually have them doing very well even up until Christmas. So, in fact, I've had a few on occasion that have done and gone all the way through the winter, but let's be honest, it's protected, it's not regular, etc. So, color, yes, but don't expect them to go all the way through and be perennial and come through again and again. Very often, if they do come through, they go to seed. And when they go to seed, they get tall and leggy and not very attractive. So, no, not that one. The other perennial that most people overlook in the fall are anemones. Now, there are the bulbous type anemones, which are really corms, and they are fine for spring color. But the anemones that are perennials, which attract hummingbirds and butterflies, etc., are going to bloom in the fall. And they bloom very often August right through October. So picking and choosing, you've got a bunch. Anemone, probably one of the most common ones, is Honorine Joubert. And this one does bloom well August into September with white flowers. Gets 90 centimeters tall. And that's pretty cool. September Charm actually blooms all the way till August through October, with pink flowers, and it's 90 centimeters tall. Queen Charlotte, another older one, it's been around a long time. It's because it's so popular, grows so well, does so well in the garden. How about bright pink flowers all the way to October, 90 centimeters tall? Or Robustissima, and it blooms August to September with pink flowers, and it's 100 centimeters tall. Or Whirlwind, which is September to October, and it's a double white one, 100 centimeters tall. So you've got flowering plants that are going to do well, extremely well in the fall. Now, I've looked at those and I like those, but there are others as well. You will find that some of the Monardas or Bergamonts or Bee Balm, whatever you want to call it, will actually bloom into September. So you might want to sort of extend that one. The ones I'm thinking of, the red, the lavender, purple, and even the pink lace, Grand Parade, and Garden View Scarlet will give you flowers right up into that time period and give it to you on a big enough plant with enough flowers that actually do go and look quite nice. So you've got those ones to choose from. One of the ones that always does the best in my garden is one of the Heliopsis, and it is often called a perennial sunflower, but it's more like yellow daisies, the composite type flowers. But boy, does it attract pollinators in the fall. Now you're going to get your honeybees, you're going to get your mason bees, you're going to get all kinds of the other types of predatory insects which are going to be feeding on the pollen, etc. And these will get anywhere from 4 to 7 feet tall, depending on the age and the size of the clump, etc. You will have to stake them or cage them, but they will bloom bright yellow all the way through September, October. I had it start in this year in August, so it's been in bloom August, September, and now doing very well in October. So, long-term color in the garden. You've got the ornamental grasses with their flowers as well. Some of them are lighter, more open. Some of them are more on the beige side, but some also have that little bit of red or purplish tinge to them. So they will give you a little bit of interest as well. And of course, many of them are variegated, so that'll give you a nice contrast. There are a number of coneflowers, echinaceas, which actually do bloom well into September, October. And the one I'm thinking of is Sunset, because it blooms well into October. And it gives you that sort of orange color. And orange in the fall, in October, okay, that works for me. Somehow or other, it doesn't look like pumpkin, though, right? Like you would think. But it is actually quite pretty. There are many others that do well into September. So basically, I mean, almost all of the coneflowers will. There's a few that don't. But the one that I also liked was Papria. This is the powwow type Paprias. This one is going to be well into bloom in October. It's a magenta, but it's 120 centimeters tall. So it is a biggie. Okay? Another one might be Ruby Star, which will give you red into October and be only 90 centimeters tall. So you've got a number of them that'll do either September or October. So you want to take a look and a hard look at Echinacea or coneflowers just simply because of that. So I want you to continue to look, and you'll often see them in the garden centers because they're trying to promote color and late season sales. So very often these are going to be in bloom in the garden center. So do your research, but also take a look at what's available. And they want to sell them, and they're extending their basically sale season. So very often they will carry them at this time of year. So go and start looking through, and you will find there are a number of great ones that you can go and actually get. Now, with daylilies, there are daylilies that are in different groups. They are deciduous, semi-evergreen, evergreen. There are big ones, there are small ones. Some bloom early, some bloom late. And the late blooming ones actually are quite effective. There's a number of them that will go well into September, but the ever-blooming ones, and there are ever-blooming ones, will bloom in the usual time in June or even July, in that period of time, and then they will repeat bloom in the fall in September and October. So if you've got a longer fall, you're actually going to go and get some of the nicer daylilies giving you color in the very late fall. So if you're looking for them for September, you're going to find lots of them, mainly in the red shades. There are those in basically the reds, which I don't know, I kind of like the red ones. So it's up to you. So take a look at those and go and utilize them as fall color. Now, there are a few others that I always say, and I mentioned the false sunflowers, the Heliopsis, which will give you, I know the Lorraine Sunshine goes well into October, 90 centimeters tall, and I think you'll like it. It's going to give you yellow. It's going to attract a lot of pollinators as well. But in this group, there's a ton of them that bloom well into September as well. I can't even tell you which one I've got. I've long since lost the label on it. But I can tell you that mine seems to always achieve a height of about 6 to 7 feet. The neighbors get to enjoy it as well. And it has a ton of flowers. The only downside to this one is that when it's finished blooming, you really want to go and cut down the stalks so that you are removing the seed heads. These things do proliferate throughout your garden, and you'll be pulling them mainly as weeds. So for that reason, I would say you may want to go and, cut that down. Well, that just means it's going to be late anyways. It's probably going to happen at the same time as you're doing a cleanup on your garden anyway. So go for it. And that. Now you've got other plants that are going to give you color in the fall. I've got the grasses. I've talked to you about the sedums. Roses. Roses, roses, roses. Now, many roses, tis the last rose of summer. Well, you can encourage that simply by continuing to deadhead in August, September, etc. And right now I have 3 roses all coming into bloom. The best one at the moment is At Last, which is a apricot, coral orange, more small, disease-resistant rose that I'm absolutely in love with. The Never Alone rose is doing quite well, giving me sort of that rosy red flowers. And Canadian Shield is budding and starting to bloom again even now. Now, I have to admit, I didn't quite get to the deadheading as soon as I should have. Otherwise, I think it would have been in bloom now. So you've got all of these roses that you can actually get that we've talked about before that are more disease resistant, that are going to go in and give you that sort of last rose of summer. So go through, take a look, and see what type of plants, you can extend your gardening color in the fall for your garden. And it works very well in a mixed border because you're going to have spring, you're going to have June, of course, you're going to have summer, and you're going to have September, October. I do have Blue River 2 hibiscus, which is the perennial hibiscus that's pure white, coming into bloom in its last blooms for this year. The red ones, they're almost finished. I don't think I'll have any more. So, take a look, plan, see what you can change, see what the garden centers have available for you. They might even be on sale. Who knows? I'm Bruce Zimmerman. This is the Open Line Garden Show podcast for this week.